One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, and here we go. One moment. Okay. I'm trying to see. All right. Mwah, 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 mwah. It's your girl Sunshine coming at you this Thursday. This Thursday, we have our panel of teachers. And we also have our panel of the Speak Easy panel, like we always do. So we have George, we have Ari, we have JD, and we have me. Mwah, your girl Sunshine. So I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves and say what their profession is. Go ahead, George.
Hey everyone, good evening. I've been on the show before. It's my second time. Happy to be here. Before I introduce myself though, I want to shout out Nicole for this amazing t-shirt. I got it in the mail. Nicole, thank you so much. I am definitely going to be rocking this. I'm Jorge Valenzuela. I'm an education coach, author, and advocate, and I'm a teacher at Old Dominion University in Virginia.
All right. And Ari, are you turning your screen on so we can see your face?
Is my picture on?
Yes, your picture is. You want to keep your picture?
Yep, I'm going to leave it on the,
okay.
On the picture.
All right. Introduce yourself.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Ari, and I am an educator in early childhood education, so elementary level.
All right, JD.
How's everybody doing? I go by JD, but my name is John. I'm actually not an educator, but I do work in telecommunications. So I'm a part of the SPEAKEASY podcast team, and just here to share my thoughts on education and how we can improve it.
And what is your take, George, on the education that we are dealing with today with the virus and everything? What's your take on it before we get with the panel questions?
My take is that teachers everywhere have really stepped up and have done their best to make remote learning work. You see, the thing that we have to understand is this, is that back in March, remote learning was an emergency response to the pandemic, which means that all of us did not know how to do it. And so teachers everywhere in the United States and even around the entire world had to level up very quickly, and in many cases without the proper infrastructure. The technical infrastructure from their school to make it happen. And a lot of kids, you know, didn't even have the devices or the Wi-Fi. And so some of the kids even got packets. And so I think that, you know, right now it's really based on what our teachers, you know, how we help our teachers so that we can do our job.
What about you, Ari?
I would have to agree. This has been definitely a learning experience for us, and we've had to be resilient and, as they say in education, flexible like a rubber band. So just coming up with creative ways to keep the students engaged, to make sure that we're communicating with the parents, supporting them as best as we can, just keeping that bridge between the school and home connection together.
What about you?
Different? But
it's different. What about you, Jay?
Hang in there, y'all. Hang in there.
So I'll have to agree with them. Just like they said, this was more of an emergency response than something that we actually thought would be the norm. So it's just that at first it was more so, let's scramble, let's find out how we can still educate our children because they were out of school for so long. But now we're realizing that this could be the future of our education when it comes to children not having to necessarily be in the classroom, but now the teachers have been the backbone of our system and not the system itself. when it comes to people being creative and being innovative, it's been the teachers. So I think it's very interesting that things have changed in the way that they have. And I really think that teachers don't get enough credit as they should.
I'm going to tell you my thoughts. Came March, I teach my kids at home too, on top of school. But this is a whole new... I give teacher credit because this Common Core thing, yeah, no. I thank God I have my middle son who's in high school, who's a 10th grader this year. He helps us with the Common Core math because we don't want to get our 5th grader, Miles, all messed up, like showing him the old school way. They get in trouble if they don't do it the Common Core way, which is stupid.
Standards of excellence.
If you get the same answer, what is the problem? But I don't want to get, I'm serious. I'm old school, like 5 divided by this, boom, is this. But no, you got to do the extra steps. It's too much. It's too much. So, anywho, before the virus hit, we already had Miles in 4th grade make his schedule for 5th grade. I chose French. Everybody in the house did German or did Spanish. So I said, Miles, I want to go to Paris. We'll take you with us. So let's go ahead and do French. Well, who knew the virus was going to hit? So this French bit, we changed it to Spanish real quickly in a hurry because the teachers wasn't communicating properly with the parents, with the kids. He'll send an email saying, I can't get into a link. The link's not working. So I was like, look at here. We're going to skip that, transfer you out of that and put you into French, from French to Spanish. So us parents that are hands-on with our kids, that's been teaching them on top of the teachers, much respect. But then there's parents that work 2 jobs, work 1 job and not home, and there's not another person there. So they're fending for themselves. So I feel for the parents as well. But the ones that's missing out are these kids. They are missing out if they don't have a proper foundation teaching them and helping them. And then, like George said, no electronics and things. Thank goodness New York has given all the kids electronics for this year. Because seriously, there's been places that's been donating. And there's a website somebody told me about that you could log on, and they're giving to students. So that everybody is, with this virus, some electronic stores are donating them, and that's good for them too, because that's a good look. And hey, they can write it off on their taxes. You know what I mean? So thank you everyone for tuning in. Please like and share, like and share, like and share. We're going to get to the nitty-gritty questions now, y'all. Let's go. So I will start with you, Ari, for the first one. Educating the educated. What do minorities face in education?
Ask me your question again.
Okay. Educating the educated. What do minorities face in education?
So I would say some of the challenges would be making sure that the proper, like you were saying, resources and technology is available to the students. Making sure that communication is constantly happening and it's not just one-ended. Making sure that we're doing as much as we can to try to bring the students up, because one of the challenges that we see constantly is that students are coming in more at a rate where they're behind already. And data is showing that a lot of them don't have those foundational skills coming into kinder, for example. If they don't have their foundational skills, then that puts them almost 2 grade levels behind coming in. And just knowing the rigor of the curriculum, it's like they're fighting an uphill battle.
George.
Personally, I think that so you know, I totally agree with Ari. And I think that, you know, the system really isn't designed for us in the sense that there are structures in place. Um, you know, systemic racism has been in place. And because of that, we lack opportunities. And sometimes we don't even, it, it's true. You know, we do at times, some of us don't qualify for certain opportunities, but a lot of times we're overlooked for it too. There's a thing that I'm learning about, it's called implicit bias. And implicit bias in a nutshell, what it looks like in school is this. Well, my non-Asian and non-Caucasian students, they can't do that type of math, so they can't be in this club or they can't be at that level. It's not something people say. It's an unconscious thing. It's what they believe, right? It's a prejudice, which leads into a stereotype, which acted upon, it prevents people of color from having the advantage or from having the opportunity.
JD.
I would have to agree. When it comes to minorities in education, it starts from the home. When children are going to school, they're literally building on the foundation of who they are with the education system. But for minorities, in a way, it's almost a reverse, because with the type of lifestyles that we have to live, or the home environments that are not as stable for the disenfranchised, they use the system of education to build the character, because you have the parents working several jobs or the parents dealing with XYZ at home. So it's just that when it comes to minorities, they are more likely to be disenfranchised than it is someone that is of that it is a white or maybe Asian descent or whoever. So it is up to both the teachers and also the parents to find ways to bridge the gap with the children, to find out how they can upbuild and uplift themselves to be better, because the children are, of course, the future. Even though people say that in a way that's kind of cliche, children are the future, but it's true. We have to educate our children in ways that we were not educated, but that all starts from the home. And I think during this time of this pandemic, it's helped us understand that there are a lot of people that do not have the proper education. And that's not to throw slight at anybody, but that's just the way it is. So we just have a lot of work to do when it comes to our children.
I agree with you
Can
guys.
I share some data to go along with what JD was just saying? So I looked up some information before, just throughout the week, just to bring in data. So currently there are 45 million Americans that are functionally illiterate and can't read above a 5th grade level. 50% of those adults can't read books that are beyond an 8th grade level. 3 out of 5 people in American prisons struggle with reading, and 85% of juvenile offenders are struggling readers. It's important for parents to know that most of the brain development, about 80% of the brain development, happens when your child is between the ages of 2 and 3. By the time they're in or 5 or getting ready for 5th grade, 90% of their brain has already developed. So a lot of those experiences can kind of impact their development in their brain. So it's important to try to just set those foundations, get them strong in a lot of things before they even get there, because that's the time where they're, like we say in education, they're a sponge at that age. So it's important for us to keep all of that in mind and make sure that we're investing in them just as much as they do in fashion and music, and making sure they know the latest dances and stuff. You got to put in to your child's education. It's important.
Hey, Nicole, can I also,
Go ahead.
so I'm really glad that Ari, you know, brought up data. And I, and I thought about this as, you know, we were talking in the first question. The research says that if you struggled in in-person learning,
Mm-hmm.
then you will definitely struggle remotely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
so
hearing it from parents
yeah,
of
so
former students.
yeah, I should have said that before, but all right.
No, you're
Thank you,
fine for
Ari.
saying it now.
Ari's keeping us on our toes.
Here's another thing I want to address. Some of these parents, like you said, some of the parents are illiterate and they have under fifth grade education because they had to work or they had to help the family out, things of that nature. So I want to call on the people that can help. I want to call on the village. A lot of these kids do not have a village. But people that don't know what I mean about village, for in our African American families and Hispanics and things of that nature, a village is people that don't have to be family. It could be friends of the family, or it could be somebody in your neighborhood that sees something in you and want to help you, want to guide you, want to teach you, as well as help the parents out. There's a village that I grew up with. My aunts, my uncles, next door neighbors come together. If they see me doing wrong,
Absolutely.
oh, I caught it. And then they called my mama. And when I got home, I caught it again. That's a village.
Yeah.
Now,
Collective community.
yes. But now, if you try to reprimand somebody's child by just speaking and saying, hey, son, pull your pants up, put your belt on, tuck your shirt in, you want to look proper, set yourself up. Don't be talking to my kids and telling them, blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, this is the problem today. Instead of you allowing somebody that loves kids and that loves to see you do better, you want to say, don't say nothing, da, 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 talk to my kids. You got a problem, come to me. It's not even like that. And that needs to stop. The mentality has changed tremendously with society, and society has changed. So now you don't know if these kids is carrying a gun, a knife, or anything, and you want to try to drop some knowledge on them. How can you drop knowledge if their mentality is not even set for that? So I'm saying we gotta keep showing love and keep being real with these kids so they know they could come to us to talk to us and tell us, Miss Nicole, I don't get this. Because they can't look stupid in front of their friends. They can't look like they don't have any questions to ask because we gotta look fly. We gotta, play it off. But let them know, if you want to come to talk to me when they're not around, I'm here. Here's my number. I'm here.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. I try to be intentional about catering to the needs of the whole child. So it's important for us to ask about their day, ask them about their interests, what's going on with your family, everything good? How you feeling? So that way they kind of see me as a safe space for them, and our classroom environment is a safe space for them. I call them out when they try to lie to me about everything being okay. I make sure I call them out about it. Like, nah, your voice does a certain thing. You give me a certain gesture. Or you look a certain way when you're not telling me the truth. So, nah, tell me what it is that you're feeling. So when they start to see you doing that, it gives them a sense of you valuing them. They feel noticed. So eventually they will get to the place where they see you as a safe space. And a lot of them need that because they're around trauma constantly, and neglect and trauma can impact brain development. So it's a lot of factors that go into the way things look for minorities, for children in general, but especially in minorities.
Yeah, like
But just to add, oh, go ahead, George.
Nah, go ahead, JD. You're good.
So I would say that, just to go back to the question, like you asked, like what is missing from our education in our communities? It's the engagement of authority. The leaders are not engaged into education because there are so many distractions that have plagued us over the course of time and over the course of years, that it's easier for me to look out for self than it is to look out for my brother or my sister, for others. I do believe, and I'll talk about this later, but I do believe when it came to us being integrated after Brown versus the Board of Education, that actually was a hindrance to our people when it comes to education. because before we were forced to stick to our own. We were forced to educate our own. We were forced to be around our people. That's why the village was something that wasn't like, it wasn't something that we had to think about. It's just that that's just what we did. When I go outside, I know that I'm looking across the street, that's Mr. Brown, and I know if I act up, he's going to correct me. Versus now, a lot of people don't even know their neighbors. They don't even know the people that live in their communities because everybody's so isolated. And when you do try to help someone just out of the goodness of your heart, people see that as creepy. They see that as you overstepping your boundary. People see that as just being completely out of character. Why are you trying to help me? You want something? So I think when it comes to a lot of people, not just people within our, well, people that are within our circles or people that are within our communities, just in the world, have been able to isolate themselves, and they don't understand how dangerous that has caused the world to be. So I think it's from the engagement of authority. People are more interested in social media. People are more interested in getting the attention from strangers and not getting the attention of their children. So
Absolutely.
Go ahead, George. You was gonna say something?
No, there's nothing to say after that. That was no, that's a drop the mic moment. Yeah, there's nothing I can say after that.
Yeah, it's true. Because I hate to say it, we have a lot of pedophiles. We have a lot of, we have a lot.
Thank
And
you.
it's in our families. It's our family members. It's our friends.
Yep.
It's our neighbors. And the judicial system does not protect these kids the way they should. So it's sad. So JD hit it. He hit it on the nail. All of us hit it on the nail. It's like your trust issues. It's like, I want to trust you, but can I trust you?
See, but I think there what Ari, Ari talked a lot about trauma and brain development and the thing. And so I was talking to a police officer today, and I said to him, if someone built a fence in front of your door, right, and you could not leave your house for 50 years, and now all of a sudden it's removed, is your life just back to normal? Or, how do you even know what normal is? That fence caused trauma. It caused disadvantages. You don't even know what outside looks like. So you're going to go outside and you don't even know how to protect yourself, right? There's so many things, right? You become marginalized because of this thing. And so the thing is this, people in authority, whether a police officer, a teacher, a nurse, whoever, right? We have signed a contract that we have to not only do our job, right, which is the actual thing of teaching, of policing, of nursing, but we also have to be socially and culturally competent about the people that we have signed on to service. We have to know the effects of the structure of the system that has caused trauma and disadvantages. If we don't know that, then we're not going to have the right language or the right words or even the right body language. And so I think the one thing that Ari said that really stuck home with me is something that I read. You may not be able to teach this student today, but you can love them today. And every single person, regardless of where we live or what time frame or what social media or whatever is happening in the world, there's a humanity in every person that can be reached through love and through teaching and through being a good person. And so I think that if we're in authority, that's what we have to do. Is love. Love is a feeling, but primarily it's a verb. It's an action that you do whether you feel like it or not.
And we also need compassion.
To go along, absolutely, to go along with what you all were saying, one thing that I can say that is progressing, that I'm seeing in education, is more awareness of social emotional needs in learning is something that's starting to be incorporated more as a part of instructional curriculum. And it's, for me, my students, I've gotten a lot of feedback from parents, and they've been happy that part is being addressed. Like, we take a day out of the week where I focus primarily on social emotional ethic learning. And they said that it's helped their kids to kind of become more aware of their feelings, how they express them, getting a better understanding of where those feelings might come from, and how they can I guess just address it within themselves. So I can say that that's one thing that is progressing, and it's important.
Let's touch on that, Ari, because let me tell you, when this virus hit, our kids couldn't have contact with their friends verbally. They could only have phone conversations or Zoom or FaceTime. They couldn't hang out in the same room with their friends. They couldn't play because everything was shut down. Like, nope, we don't know how this is spreading. We don't know this. It's like a scaring tactic, but it's real. So our kids could not have the connection that they normally have in school when they see their friends laugh, hug, dap, hey, you know what I mean? So my middle son, Jalen, was starting to get down and depressed. Like, depression is hitting these kids because, let's be real, seniors. Remember our senior year, George? You know what I mean? We had our senior trip. We had our prom, even though I went to like 3 proms. And anywho, you know, our senior year, we was off the chain.
I wasn't. I was well behaved. For everyone out there watching,
man, why you lying?
No. Oh, I can show you my transcript. I was about my business.
My senior yearbook was filled up. I had to put extra pages in. We went on our senior trip skiing. When the chaperones went to sleep, everybody came to our room. We was playing spades, dominoes, just bugging out. Yeah. Our senior year, these kids couldn't do that this year. They lost out on their senior trip. They lost out on their prom. They lost out on what we were able to do. So depression hit. How you going to college now? You still can't do what you used to do. You can't have too many in a room. You got to take that test because you won't be able to stay on campus. My nephew had to take the test. That's the horrible feeling, taking that test. But you got to do it if you're staying on dorm. It's like, and people that didn't clean properly, they learned they better clean now properly.
Listen.
So
thing.
Nasty.
Yeah.
I don't even really. I could go in a whole nother direction with that.
Hey, hold on to that.
But the depression is hitting our young kids now because of this, because of the frustration of not getting the proper help with a question because the teacher don't see them raising their hand or clicking the button that I need help. Don't go on to the next question because we couldn't finish this one yet. So these kids are getting frustrated. My youngest son, he gets frustrated because then we have to take a time out. I'm at work. He'll call me on the phone and I'll take time out from my whatever I'm doing because I need to make sure my son is okay. Or his father do that. If he's on the phone downstairs, we got to make sure that their mental stays focused and don't break because of this.
But
I don't want to.
But that's one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that what the pandemic did was it spotlighted or it put a spotlight on certain inequities, like, the disruption in the home, food, education, all those things. But it also put a spotlight on SEL, social emotional learning, and the needs of young people, well, of all people, understanding their environment, themselves, other people, relationships, decision-making, things like that. And so I think that, everything, it's hard when you've lost a person, when we've lost so much in our country. I was listening last night and Kamala Harris said, over 200,000 people died.
Yeah, 210,000. And
Yeah, it's something crazy like that. And we've had a rough time in America. So many people have lost their jobs. I mean, so much has happened. But also, we've started to focus on things that are important as well. Like one thing for me, like I travel everywhere. I've been home 6 months focusing on the people that are the most important people in my life, which is my children,
Absolutely.
my fiance, all of that. And so I just think that we need to focus on things that are important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to agree with George when it comes to focusing on things that are important. We really now understand we now understand that having emotional stress or trauma is just as real as an actual physical injury. When it comes to the brain, when it is affected by trauma, it literally changes the chemistry of the brain, of how you react to emotions, perception. When it comes to understanding a certain situation, that is primal decision making. And we now see that these children were so vastly affected by this virus because we thought that, oh, these kids, they just stay in their phone, they just stay on their tablet, when really these phones and these tablets and these gaming systems were literally an extension of themselves.
Yeah.
They learned how to project themselves into these devices to connect to more people. And once we took away the core value of just the fact of you trying to connect to someone, that really started to traumatize some kids. The suicide rate went up. And it's not only because kids weren't able to talk to their friends, but kids were actually having to deal with the problems that they weren't dealing with when they weren't at home. Kids were technically being sent to school to get away from some of the issues that they had at home, whether it was abuse, whether it was malnutrition from not having anything to eat, just getting into a better or safe environment. And we now realize that there is a lot more going on in our world that we didn't see, or we didn't care to see because it wasn't our problem.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that just because it's not our problem doesn't mean that it's not our problem.
Yep.
So it's so much that we can change and affect just by talking to educators just like this on this podcast to see how we can collaborate to extend the realm of influence to get out to these kids. And it's so important that we find ways to make this I wouldn't say necessarily, well, to make distant learning become more effective for kids that do have trouble learning in person.
Yeah. And it's true. It is true. Because also domestic violence has gone up in the homes during this pandemic. Divorces have gone up in the homes during this pandemic because you realizing y'all fell out of love, y'all fell out of touch with each other. Like this is showing you of things that you was trying to run from.
Hey, wait, Nicole.
They
wait. Oh, wait, Nicole. Like, I just want to say one thing about that, though. I personally think that the pandemic is showing you who your friends are and who they're not.
That too.
Oh, I have a lot less acquaintances now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of like now that I've seen true colors.
Oh.
Yeah. Now that I've seen true colors, I'm good. I have a lot less people to worry about in my inner circle or stuff like that. And so I think that's a blessing.
Oh, yes. Any other comments before we go to the next one? Okay. And I don't see any questions here. So our listeners, our loyals, if you have questions or if you have comments, definitely write them in the comments because we will talk about it. We will address it. So let's go to the next question because we hit a lot of the other questions. So what are the parents doing for their kids to educate them? Have you guys had conversations with the parents? how to make it fun for them or how to register it with them if they don't get it. Have you guys had any conversations?
Well, I wrote an entire article for parents. Finder.com reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, would you mind, writing an article?" And so, step by step of what to do. And this came about because a lot of parents have Facebook groups where they are, working together to try to educate their children. I was at a wedding just a couple of weeks ago, and a friend of mine, was stating a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues. And so again, parents are online, they are trying to work together, they are trying to figure out what to do. And what I've noticed is that some people have started tutoring businesses. Someone who's 17, 18, and they're familiar with all the material, they are just helping out a lot of younger peers and they're making a business out of it. And so for parents who are busy and who don't necessarily know how to, support in certain ways, then that's like a, stress reliever, right?
Yeah.
And so I just think that parents right now are really learning how to help their kids. And it's crazy, right? Like, we call this the new normal. But in some parts of the country, like where I live, now in education, we are slowly, going back to normal. Like my school system here where I live, I want to say by November, we will all be back in school. Like it's going into phases, right? It's like 4 phases. But if you look at everyday life, a lot of people already put the pandemic behind them. If you go into a restaurant,
Yeah.
if you go in the gym, right? Like there's places you go,
No
and
mask.
no mask. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so I think that honestly, this too shall end. I'm not sure when, but I think that we won't be here forever. And I think that, it would be a good idea if we learned from everything that we've encountered.
Well, I have to go off with George. I want to add on to that. Just like you said, like the new normal, this isn't going to last forever. But one of the things that's holding up this pandemic is going back to education. No one really knows what it is. They don't really understand how it spreads, what effect that it does to the body. Every 45 days, well, 30 to 45 days, there's something different going on with what it does to you. The symptoms, how it changes, how it evolves. It's literally as if this virus is learning as it goes. So when it comes to parents, I think this is a very humbling experience for a lot of parents, because just like Ari said, that there is a number of people, it's like 45% that are illiterate, that can't read above a 5th grade level. So you have parents that get that that get furious with their children for asking them a question that they don't understand because it hurts their ego, it hurts their pride.
Yeah.
So it's just that one of the things that could help parents are other parents. Like, it's a friend of mine that I went to high school with. She literally started her tutoring business, and she can go anywhere in the country and tutor from wherever she is, because now everything is done remotely. So I think COVID has been a blessing and a curse for a lot of people, depending on your perspective. Not saying that death is a good thing, and I'm not trying to say that, but life does come down to your perspective. You are not your traumas, you just experience them. So COVID has helped people understand that you have to level up. If you lost your job, how can I still provide for my children? What can I do to be a better provider for them? And starting your own business is now easier than it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, because you can literally just log on. I can't remember the actual website you log on to file for your LLC, but you could literally just file for it. As long as you have the actual documentations for it, you can start your own business, low cost, but the work comes from you. So it's just that the parents are the most crucial part of this movement to make sure that kids not only learn, but kids also know that there is a future. But I think when it comes to this, to COVID-19, I think we have a lot of room to grow, maybe even another year, 2 years before they really get it under control. But them talking about the
Mhm.
vaccine, of course, that's a different conversation. That's a can of
Mhm.
worms that I'm not ready. Anyway, that's a can of worms. but
That'll be
but
the next panel soon.
I'm telling you, let's
But
get back
I
on
want
to
to
that one.
piggyback off of what you said, JD. You don't
Mhm.
even need to do an LLC. You can start with just a DBA, and that's with your social. You do an
Yep.
EIN
Sole
number,
proprietor.
go
Hmm.
online, and you can get it less than 30 minutes. All you got to do is fill out your social security number, your address, your
Hmm.
name, the name of the business. But first, you check downtown where your town hall. Make sure that name is not taken. You could then do a DBA,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and you're the sole proprietor, and that's just getting your feet wet. Because LLCs cost some money. So while you're
Hmm.
starting your business, you don't have to do the LLC, but you could turn it into LLC later.
Hmm.
This virus has been a blessing and a curse. We've lost family members to this virus.
Yeah.
We have, but we've also was able to look at us, see what needs to be
Hmm.
changed, what's
It's a
within
mirror.
us we could bring out. And we could also teach our kids how to be entrepreneurs, how to do
Mm.
things, and to touch base on what they're missing or having problems with education and what they're struggling with, just the child itself, and help them and tap into it and fix it.
Hmm.
Fix what you like and fix what you don't like.
Mm. Mm.
So this
I
virus
Absolutely.
like that.
had us and checking our
Hmm.
kids and checking where we're what we're putting from us onto our kids.
Hmm. It helped you tap back into what's controllable. It helped you
Exactly.
understand that you are in more control than what you realize. The power within does not mean that you are without power. Just because you don't know how to express the power within, that doesn't mean you are without power. So just like you said, the LLC that does take more money. But if you just go the route of just having a sole proprietor,
DBA.
that I mean, technically your name could be a sole proprietor depending on what you do. So it's so many different ways that we as parents can educate our children in ways that we were never educated. But thankful to the internet, we now
Mhm.
are or now or now we have a chance to be above the curve or
Yeah.
ahead of the curve to teach our kids something that they will never learn in school, such as credit, finances, an actual career, working for self, time management, core values that that you're forced to learn in college. I mean, I did terrible in college. I had no idea what I was doing.
You
I was
kind of late
just
then.
there. I,
I mean, these was every semester.
I
I was
mean,
on it. I was getting my 4.0s and every yes. But I did that and graduated 2018. So
mm,
I did it when I
mm,
got older because
yeah,
right out of high school, I wasn't ready for college. I did it a year and man, listen.
had no
But
business.
I went for real. If I took time out and then went back, I wouldn't have wasted
Hmm.
my mother's money. I'm keeping it 100.
I want to
But
get
the
on
simple
student
fact
loans.
is now we could tap in and teach our kids what we see
Mhm,
missing if we get our focus back.
mhm,
A
Right.
lot of our focus
Absolutely.
hasn't been on our kids. A lot of our focus hasn't
Mhm.
been on the school system. A lot of our focus, like people clown about the PTA. No, be in the PTA. You're going to learn what the schools is doing and what they're cutting and what they're not cutting. Are you at the boards when they want to cut some things in schools? Are you there speaking
mhm,
up and being a voice for these children? The teachers
mm,
can't be the only ones doing it. They need the parent backing as well. So we
mhm,
need to also build a great bridge with the teachers so that way the teachers could talk to us and we could talk to them and there's no hostility and the kids see that we're all on one accord to make sure that the kids are getting their best education
mm.
possible. Now,
I agree.
also, growing up as us, we had the encyclopedias. where you went to the hardcover books. See, a lot of people now go on the electronics and want to read books or have it read to you. That's a problem. I'm going to say it. I feel that's a big problem. That is the biggest problem. And I know, George, you're laughing because you play your books. But I am the old geek. I've always loved books. I love the hardcover books. I like to open them and feel the crease. I like to highlight. I like to underline. I like to take notes. I like to fold the pages down.
Wait, I just want to say one thing.
The
right there, annotating documents, that's the way you're supposed to learn. So I wasn't laughing at that.
No, okay. I know. But the thing is, if we went back to the old school training and teaching where they're highlighting and reading in a hardcore book, it'll gain up here.
It takes more effort.
It
takes more effort to learn.
And then you're reading the hardcover. You're reading the hardcover and your outline. I love hardcover books. George laughs at me. I always order them. He's like, well, you could do it and just play it. No, I like the smell of a book. Yes, George, I got your book.
No, but
I love the smell of a fresh new book. I get excited when my books come in.
All right, so I do listen to audiobooks, okay? And
I'm not clowning you for it. I'm just saying that's the problem with our kids today.
But I just want to say one thing though. So I'm a writer also, and I'm very dedicated to the art form. And so every morning I put in 90 minutes a day. That's how I have a lot of articles out, on the internet. And so through the 90 minutes, I'm having to basically explain myself using 3 things: research, personal story, actionable steps. And so because of that, I'm constantly researching, reading, looking at other stuff, figuring things out, that by the time I want to get to my leisure, I just need to listen to it at that point. But I take screenshots of certain things I see, and then I go back and then I study that thing further. So technology is meant to augment instruction.
I want to jump in on that. So as George was saying, it has its pros. And as you were saying, Nicole, it has its cons of kind of just doing things from a read aloud perspective. So one thing that I think is important for parents to understand is that their children need to be in a print-rich environment. Always keep books around them. Like a home library is important. Read to your kids nightly or daily, or try to do it as consistently as possible. Like, I know that there are times where you have a lot going on, you're working, there are other kids, you're tired, but the more that you read to them, the more success they'll have once they enter into school and they start reading. If they have that exposure to the words in the print rich environment, if they're hearing you're modeling it for them, so that way they're getting a better understanding of how it should sound, when there's certain punctuation, how their voice might change, how the influx and things should be there. So modeling is important, and we're able to do that orally or verbally for them. But then, like you were saying, the book, having the actual book, the kids sometimes have difficulty with print concepts because they've never held a physical book. So they can't tell me the front cover or the back cover of a book. They don't know anything about how the book is held together, or where a title page is, how to go across it, because a lot of things are being done through the computer. So it's important to find a balance of both, but making sure that even if you don't want to read it, I guess that would be a benefit of having the read aloud available on through technology. So at least you're still giving them something. They can hear it. It may not be from you, but they would definitely value the time of having a parent stop and take that time to read to them, because that's a memory that you're making and you can't get that time back. So they would certainly appreciate having you read it to them. But then again, the technology is there for the tired days, but do something. Do something.
Yes.
I got to add on to Ari's point. So when I was in school, the book fair was the time of the year, bro. Let me tell you, man, we
Fantastic.
were,
Get it.
oh,
Put your
we were
money in there.
so, oh yeah, we were
Get
so
that
hyped
20.
for this thing,
Yes,
man. Like
I
getting the
love
Yes.
it.
books or getting the pencils that match with the books and the bookmarks or the
Yep,
posters. It was
yep.
so many interactive and engaging things that
Mhm.
that were around books. And now just understanding, just like she said, having a print happy environment that gives your child a physical connection to what the word is, and that forces their mind to form some type of connection with the word that they are trying to pronounce or what they're reading, and that helps with their cognitive skills. So we we as parents definitely have to focus more on how can we get books into the hands of our children, because books are less distracting if you think about it, because when you have a book in front of you, the only thing you have is your book and your imagination, versus a tablet or a phone and you're reading a
Right.
book through an ebook. You can swipe off that screen and like, let me see what's going on with this Fortnite or something like that. Kids have so many different options when it comes to these devices. So getting their hands on these books will
Mhm.
be more beneficial. And just like you said, it's just that technology just makes learning greater. It doesn't replace the core values of learning. And parents, or people, not just parents, but people have gotten so comfortable with going to Google and looking something up or using your calculator on your phone versus literally going to the numbers in your head on how to calculate certain things, or to try to understand something by reading in between the lines using critical thinking. So it's so many things that technology has done to advance us, but in a way, I
It's
feel like we're moving
it's
back.
enabled us. Yes,
Exactly. That's what I
because
Yeah.
was looking for. It has
let
enabled
me
us for
tell you,
sure.
my mother has a bookshelf. Okay, in my house, I have books everywhere. I have books
Everywhere.
in my car
Yeah.
right now because my children are no longer children anymore. So I have the little kitty books in the back of my car, and there's places where you could donate books and things like that. They have now
Mhm.
escalated, elevated higher. They go to my mother's house, and she has in her den all encyclopedias. They're like, "What is this?" I said, "This is how we did our book reports when we had to do research.
Right.
This is before electronics really kicked in."
Mhm.
So we make our children read a hardcover book. We take them to the library and get a book.
Yeah.
I make the fifth grader Miles, who's 10. I'm gonna pick an African American that you may not have heard of, and I'm gonna make you do research with me on this person. He didn't know
Right.
that African American made the heart pacer. And the reason why he made the heart pacer was because the man's mother died from heart failure
Hmm.
until he did his research. There's things the school's not teaching our kids that we need to teach them at home. There's
Super
things that the
important.
school is teaching is
Mhm.
not the correct history. I'ma say it. The proper history. Like Columbus
Yeah.
did not
His
find
story.
America. The American Indians was on this land. Columbus and them came over, killed our American Indians, took over the land and stole it from us and brought African Americans from the motherland, Africa, over here. So let's teach the real to our kids and not what made up. Go ahead,
Yeah.
George.
Oh,
I
no,
see.
I have to agree. Like even myself, I grew up with Nicole, and my situation was a little different in the sense that I was in foster care. And so because I didn't have an immediate family at that time, when I went to school, my peers were like my family, in a way.
Yeah.
And so, living in the South now, when you meet an African American in the South, is very different from one in New York. And so what
Mhm.
I've come to realize as an adult, not back then, that because my peers were mainly Latinx and African American, my culture was hip hop. That's what it was. The way I dressed, the way I talked, the way I cut my hair. To this day, there's still aspects of that that are still very much a part of who I am.
Yeah.
Product of your
And
environment, right?
you know what I'm saying, right? And so what I realized just now, okay, I didn't know about Tulsa. I didn't know about Juneteenth.
Mm.
The friends I've had my whole life, the music I'm listening to, the culture I've embraced, but I don't even know the history of the people of the country, of what is going on. And so I had to, like, we were watching Hamilton.
Oh, I love Hamilton.
Like, because it told a story from a different perspective in a language that I understand.
Mm.
And
That,
on top of that, with Hamilton, my son asked me to go see it. And I told him about Hamilton. He was like, how you know about it? I said, Mommy was a bookworm. I may be street, I may be petty, I may be bougie and all that, but I was a bookworm. I love reading. Reading takes you to a journey and outside. It's like whatever you're going through, get a good book and focus on that book, and you'll be that character you're reading about. It'll take you from your situation, but it's also helping you elevate your mind. It's also helping you move the fundamentals going around and not being dormant.
So
It's
that's
like,
good, Nicole.
huh?
Because I said that's good because that's for some kids that can be a positive escape. That's an alternative to going out and trying to do something else as a means of just numbing yourself from everything that you have going on. So I love that you mentioned that. I love that you mentioned getting books that are interesting or engaging for the kids. So it's important for parents to not just get them any type of book, but know your child's interests so that you can cater to your child's interests. So that way it gets them more excited about it. You're able to talk to them more about what it is they're reading so that they can see that you're interested in what matters to them. And another thing that you all brought up was the differences in the content that's taught and the way that it's taught pertaining to certain things about culture or different groups of people. I noticed a difference when I went to like a elementary school, pretty much predominantly Black, and it was named after Harriet Tubman. The way that they taught us was completely different. We learned about African American inventors. We learned to be proud of who we were. It was a different caliber, but I noticed once I switched to schools that did not necessarily look like that, there was less that I heard about minorities and people who look like me. So it's important for us to make sure that our kids are reminded of who they are and where they come from. So that was one of the reasons why I chose to put the picture on here that I have. I love dressing up for my kids, teaching them about different things. I would designate or center certain projects around instruments and the way that they were created and build like an entire day where I taught them and we listened to stuff about African drumming. They heard African folk tales. They got to create necklaces or beading and things like that. And we just had a whole day and just the joy on their faces from the experience at the end of the day. That's something that they won't forget. So it's important to build those experiences for them because they don't forget stuff like that.
hey, Ari.
So, yeah, go
So,
ahead.
hey, Ari,
Mm-hmm.
you're a phenomenal teacher.
Thank you.
Give us some snaps.
Yo,
Yeah,
so
phenomenal.
so I want us to stay on topic because we're hitting on some really, really good points. Actually, it seems like though we were trying to get to this question. And to piggyback off of what Ari said, so the next topic is talking about what what has distant learning done for minorities. So before we even got on topic of this, I had no idea that distance learning was something real before COVID-19.
Yeah.
And understanding that this is something that has technically been around, like kind of like it's been something that hasn't been the norm. But now we are focused on trying to elevate distant learning. So one of the things with distant learning, it helps you understand your child and how they learn. So I'm glad that we have two educators here on our podcast to help us understand, what have you seen when you are teaching your classrooms, and how has distant learning, I guess, helped, or how has it affected the minorities that you all come across?
You can start, George, if you want to start.
Well, I gotta think about it a little bit. Like my students are already adults. I teach a university class, so like my youngest person is maybe 17, but that's like once in a while. Like, you know, like I have folks from, you know, late teens and older. And then I coach a lot of educators all around the country. And so the thing that I've seen for our teachers of color, and also for my students, is that they've seen the importance of not being silent when injustice is being done. That's what I've seen. I've seen it come across in the projects that we design in the workshops. I've seen it in the writing that my students put into the discussion boards, that they are more in tune with who they are, and they're more willing now to be proud of it, but to speak up when things aren't right. And so for me, I think that growing up in the 80s, where we had a Public Enemy, where, you know, Malcolm X was a movie, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did want to say one thing, because you see, Nicole's an old friend. And so I have a lot of new friends, and there's a side of me that I can't, you know, they wouldn't understand, I don't think. And so Nicole.
Yeah.
In the Ghetto, Eric B. and Rakim.
Eric B. Rakim.
What you know about that, Eric B?
So I was speaking about learning about the history and understanding what's going on. Now, I was 16 years old, you know, on the train, on the bus, listening to Eric B. and Rakim because my friends at school were. And when I'm listening to him rhyme, I'm like, whoa, like this is amazing, right? Now that I'm learning everything and I'm in the gym listening, now I understand Rakim. It took me 40 years to understand what I was listening to.
KRS-One.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a teacher, you know, it's a scholar, right? So for what I'm saying to you is this, is that that's missing. My son said to me, he was like, oh, Dad, that was a long time ago.
That's what my son said.
But he said this like 3 years ago. Now he's on it.
Yeah.
You know, I was trying to show my daughter Selma and The Butler a long time ago. And she was like, look, I saw Roots. I'm over it. I don't want to deal with that. It's too emotional for me. Now they watched everything and they're like, okay, we have to get in tune with our African-American roots. And they're on it and they know their history. The Breonna Taylor special, they didn't want to watch that one. They were like, you know what, we're not ready because it's been too emotional. It's too much right now. I watched it and it was like, when I saw the mom speaking, I started crying.
I couldn't watch it.
Her life is documented. It's all over social media. So when her mom is speaking, they're showing all the pictures and her mom is saying, hey, I had my daughter when I was young and I was raised with her. And when you see like the images, it's just too much. But what I am seeing is that the young people now are starting to be more in tune. There's a rapper called Little Baby. You know, and I just saw the video and my son is listening to this now. He was listening to 6ix9ine before. I mean, just think about what I'm saying right there. Like I told my son, you really have to watch it. Yeah, I mean, look, I was on an airplane with him and he fell asleep and I put the headphones on. I couldn't believe what was going on, you know, but you know, he's 15. I was like, son, You really should be careful what you put into your brain. But now, there's a shift. And so I don't know where we're going, but I think we need to keep having these conversations.
Yes.
I agree. Yes. Totally
Mm-hmm.
agree with you, George.
Always have a sit down at our dinner table. How was your day? When I come home from work, how was your day? How was school? I check in during the day, but we need to check in. Even at the dinner table. Yeah, Shamark and I and the kids be on our phone. Now we said no phones at the table. Because remember, we couldn't have phones at the table, couldn't take a phone call back in the day. When it's dinner time, you sit your butt down at that dinner table. You ain't gonna get up until your plate is clear, and you ain't taking no calls. I don't care who's knocking on the door. We're gonna act like we don't hear it. And we need to get back to that.
Yeah.
How was your day? People got to check in. Like, check in with your family and friends too, because everybody ain't doing good. We got to check in. That's why no matter what you go through, smile, because you know what? Somebody else got it worse than you. Smile. So that's why I'm sunshine, because I could be going through hell right now, which I am. Am I showing it? No, because you know what? There's another day. What I don't conquer today, I'll conquer tomorrow. What I don't conquer tomorrow, I'll conquer the next day. But we got to change our perspective on how we seeing things. Like the depression's kicking in, the suicidal thoughts kicking in, the dementia, everything. Everything's piling up on these kids, piling up on the household, piling up in the house. So we got to start thinking right now, okay, the kids can't do what they used to do. They can't go to school right now. They can't do this. Let's make it fun. Okay, let's go bike riding. Let's go ride past your friend's house. Not going to do up a step back and say, hey, how you doing and stuff. So we do that. We do that with our kids. We go bike riding and we'll go to the neighborhood where their friends are. And we talk to the parents. And now we have a certain group that they only play with, because why? We've all been tested. Everybody's clear. You know what I mean? But we're trying to make it a little bit of the norm for them, so they don't go stir crazy, so they don't have depression kick in. So then they also can help each other with the homework, because they do. Miles will be on the phone like, yo, Chris, do you understand this problem? Mom and dad is working right now and they're stuck on a call. So they helping each other. So it's like telephone. Remember when we used to play telephone? Now we're playing telephone with homework. Playing telephone with the schoolwork. So we got to make it more fun for them to want to grasp it, instead of being saying, I'm stuck in this house, I'm stuck on this computer, and my eyes are hurting, and you know what I mean? So yeah.
I agree.
Compassion and dialogue.
Shamark said, no negative language like stupid, dumb, and I can't. Oh yeah, that's our little one. I don't care.
Yes,
the teacher's not helping me. She don't see my hand raised. Oh my God. I be rubbing my knuckles.
It's important to.
Sorry, what do you think?
Okay, ask me the question again. Let me make sure I got everything I want to say properly.
So the question is, what has distant learning done for minorities? What are you seeing?
I would say that it's causing people to slow down and hopefully become more aware of the challenges that their children might face, being more honest about where their children are, more accountability in terms of how they can support their kids, how they can engage more with the teachers, is given an appreciation for what we do. That's the main thing. Making sure that we're just showing that compassion, trying to encourage one another, and working together to make sure that for the greater good, we're supporting these kids and we're helping them to grow.
I agree. I have to agree with this new way of learning. This is help people understand who are really there for the children and who aren't. And that's not only talking about the teachers, but that's also talking about the parents too. So one of the things that I see with distant learning, how how it shows the truth in people's household, now you were able to
Yeah.
see how your child learns. You were able to see how your child learns and thrives in your home environment. So this literally pulls up a mirror for you to see, what am I doing to enrich the soul of my child? And I've seen so many
Absolutely.
videos online and TikTok where you see parents walking in the background. I
Naked.
saw, I saw a parent, well, I saw one smoking weed in the background. I saw another one naked in the
Yes,
background.
I posted
It,
that one.
We
it's like, it is
don't want to
insane.
see.
The hot
And
mess.
parent, it's like literally, bro, she was just walking around. She naked. She naked, bro.
The teacher
So,
said,
Listen.
so,
"No,
it's just that we're now seeing that parents, or some of these parents, don't truly respect
it
the
is."
growth of their child,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
don't respect technically themselves. And I'm not saying that all parents do this, but the ones that don't find ways to change and to enrich
Right.
the child's life,
Mhm.
then that's a direct reflection of them. And going back to what you said, Sunshine, just like how you have your son, he's calling his boys like, yo, how do I do this? How do I do that? This is actually helping children create a village amongst themselves.
Yes.
And this is a way that we could build on top of that, seeing how these kids call or talk to their friends. Then we need to be talking to the friends' parents,
We do.
seeing how that we can help out. Now, my
Mm-hmm.
daughter, she's 2. She still goes to daycare, so she's not in the situation yet. But this could be the future for her before I really realize. And also,
Right.
too, it's a shift. People are becoming more aware of their
Mm-hmm.
history. Going back to what George said, like, he was on the train listening to Rakim. I mean, and now he's a grown man and he understands, like, yo, this is what they meant. And now his kids are starting to understand what it means to listen to certain types of music. People are now becoming more
Mm-hmm.
aware of who they are, of their surroundings, and there's a shift. And we're now seeing all on the TV screen, not trying to get into politics, but we're seeing all on the TV screen of what's happening with the leadership of our country.
Hot mess.
Whether I mean, whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican, whether you're independent, I mean, yo, this is my stance. It doesn't matter who's in that White House if I don't control who's in this house. I'm gonna go ahead and write that down. Let
Yeah,
me
you're right.
quote that real
Write it
quick.
down.
Write that
No,
down.
no, wait.
let me
Chat.
just go
I
ahead and
might
quote
make a
that.
T-shirt.
shirt.
Make it a
Yeah.
t-shirt.
I am.
Oh,
Write that down and
hey,
send it to me.
Sunshine, make
Pause,
that my
pause, pause.
t-shirt.
Yo,
And
John. Hey, yo,
put
JD.
it in the
No,
chat.
wait, hold on.
I mean it.
JD,
Put it in the chat.
JD, you don't know me
so
yet, but I
so
gave her the idea.
mhm.
Oh my God, he's still stuck on this. I
No, hold
told
on.
everybody.
Hey, JD, put the silhouette of the hat with the beard, just a silhouette, and the same. Boom.
Yo, I actually have a Nipsey quote that's similar to that. I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but it literally has a silhouette of Nipsey with his beard, and it has a saying, and it's quoted by Nipsey. So it's just that people are being so caught up in what's on social media, the
Mm-hmm.
opinions of others, the the news. There's so much conflicting information, and then now on top of this, we have this political campaign between two parties.
Hot
We are
mess.
being forced to choose, when really, if we just understand that we are all a part of the same thing, and that we
Mm-hmm.
are in more control than what we are giving these other powers to be, we can really have a way to change going forward. But it's going to take a lot more time than what I realize for people to get on the same wave, or the people that can make a change to get on the same wave.
Oh, I mean,
Once they
I think,
stop
yeah.
segregating us, like Joy said earlier, once they stop segregating us, when we were segregated, we was on one accord.
Mm-hmm.
If one didn't have food in their home, the whole neighborhood came together and they shared each pot and stuff and broke it down and made it last.
Mm-hmm.
We had Rosewood. It's in Florida. It's on. If you didn't watch the movie, watch the movie. This is true story. African American community, bakers, lawyers, doctors, banks, all African American in that village. A Caucasian added came and messed it all up. But they had unity before this went on. There was unity back in the day. Once segregation ended, look, everybody for themselves, doggy dog. Nobody wants to be that village. Nobody wants to help out. No. I was raised old school. My kids are raised old school. They know their manners. They hold open the doors. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. Now, with me at home, they be like, what? Huh? I hate that. No. Come see what I want.
Mm-hmm. Yo, I got to piggyback off of what you said, Sunshine. So there was a documentary back in the 50s. It was called How to Sell the Negro. And this documentary talks about how they would market certain brands to certain people, which were Black people, on what to buy, when to buy, and how much to buy. So they knew that Black people liked to dress a certain way because we didn't have the same type of money or resources as people that didn't look like us, or people that were white. So by this documentary, they actually broke it down into a science of how to market, sell, and take the money from the Black people. And that has literally rolled into today. The money, when it comes to Black people, bounces no less than one time in the Black community before it is gone, because we are so addicted to looking a certain way and to being a certain way. And social media has truly gained its traction from trends of Black people. Now, there are other people, there are so many different ways that social media has grown, but as far as from the trends, it has been because of how Black people are, the dances, the clothes we wear, the fashion, etc. And that is something that has been capitalized on. And just by saying that, we are now in a time where we can really control and influence our child more directly than what we could before, because we can control the circle of our child, of who they are around. We can help them learn in a way that's better for them, and we can also teach them things that some teachers won't actually teach them, or things that they won't learn in school. So distant learning, in a way, has really been a blessing if you use it right. This is a tool that you can literally have your child advance before they exit that classroom or before they move on to the next grade. Teach them things that can be tangible. Because when I was growing up, I never went to the grocery store to figure out anything that was dealing with geometry, college algebra, calculus, etc. I don't know what the Pythagorean theorem is, how that equates to me buying something. But you can teach your child about taxes. You can teach your child about handling finance, saving. It's so many things that we could do now that I don't think a lot of people quite grasp yet, because there's so much to grasp at the time. So those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of you, JD, I have chores in my house for the kids. Miles, the 10-year-old, he already saved up from his birthday and everything. He has over almost $300.
Wow.
And he's 10. Now I'm going to teach him how to put it in the bank and how to keep a passport book. I want to teach my kids while they're young. Nobody focus on keep your credit right when you're younger with us. I want to do that for them. Nobody showed us certain things until we got into high school. I'm doing that with them here. My kids get paid for helping me. Okay, help me line this up on the shirt. Is this even? I use the input. Do you like this shirt, or what should I do with it? I ask them for their input so they can help me. I show the 10-year-old how to operate, because when I'm done, I'm leaving you a legacy. God's property is not just for me, it's for you too. My life insurance money is not just for me, it's for y'all. It's for my granddaughter. It's for y'all. But I don't want you to know how much I have because I want you to learn how to work for it. I want you to know the value of $1. And parents need to be back on one accord. Why are we buying Tommy Hilfiger? Why are we buying Polo and everything? Are they giving back to the African-American community? If you're not giving back to us, to the schools, why are we supporting you and you talking ill will of the African-American community? Remember,
because I want to look good. I just want to look good. I want to look good when I post my picture online. I want all these likes.
Exactly.
I want all these followers.
The mentality. So right now, I'm not going school shopping for you because why? You ain't going to school.
You ain't going nowhere.
Make sure the top from the waist up look presentable for Zoom.
You better wear that shirt I bought you last year.
So the simple fact is,
like you
goes wild.
We have to
John
change
and
their mentality, their mindset. We got to, but it all starts at home, and it starts with the parents too, because some of their mentality mindset needs to change.
So, like you all were saying, you're choosing to prioritize stuff that's more important as opposed to the fashion, the music, the entertainment. So what you all are speaking to is priorities. And yes, a lot of the stuff that you all mentioned, we absolutely are not going to learn in any K-12 setting in terms of investing, in terms of credit, in terms of the stuff that we really need to know when we start adulting. That's why we're dependent on our parents, and unfortunately sometimes they don't know. And in terms of social media, it's like they want to know these things, but they don't feel comfortable asking those questions and having to be vulnerable or feeling ignorant in a sense.
Absolutely. So that actually brings us to our last question. I'm glad you ended it on that note, Ari. So the last question I want to ask the panel, and I'll go with George first. The question is, what do you teach your kids, and are you involved?
What do I teach my kids? So, it's so funny. In the pandemic, my daughter officially joined my payroll. Okay, so she's now my assistant.
Hey.
When she turns 18, she has to pay 12% tax on that. And so I'm showing her that. Both her and my son, I do pay them allowance. And now my daughter, she's on my payroll. And so we went to the bank, to Wells Fargo, and we opened up a checking and a savings. And every time they get allowance or they get, paid, 20% goes straight into the savings, and then the other goes into the checking. So we've done that. Right. And so I'm talking to my daughter about the difference between LLCs and corporations and the tax difference. Right. A lot of people open up LLCs but don't know the difference, and they may not have a good accountant. I also got my accountant on a quarterly payment, the time schedule between him and I, where we meet every quarter now. I take my daughter with me. We're also building a house. I take my daughter with me. I take my son with me. So they understand the whole process. We're meeting our pastor on Saturday so we can arrange our wedding. I'm bringing my kids with me so they know what to do when I'm gone. When I ask for my, future in-laws, I zoom them in all so they can see what you're supposed to do when you ask for someone's daughter's hand. What else am I doing? So that I'm telling all my business right now, Nicole.
It's going to help somebody else. This panel tonight is helping our viewers and the ones that will view this, because the simple fact is not many have been taught. So we're actually teaching.
Yeah. Well, I'm the teacher, right? So the only reason why I'm saying this stuff, because it is personal, is because someone listening might need it. But
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Here's the thing. You're either in your classroom or in your home. You're a pilot, the pilot, or a passenger. You have to choose. And if you're the pilot, that means you're the leader, right? Leader means to go first. It doesn't mean to delegate. It means to go first, to lead by example and to show others what to do. Not how to think, but how to do things.
Mm, good points. Ari, same question.
Modeling. I love what he said about bringing the kids along to show them. That's a big word in education, is modeling. Everything we teach them, we have to model. We show them how to do, and that's a consistent thing. Modeling consistently builds a stronger foundation. As far as my child, we have mastered foundational skills that he would have needed long before he even started school. I try to make sure that we engage in things that are interesting to him. Considering the transition to money and things that you all have mentioned outside of the traditional education system, to make sure that he's aware of all of the opportunities that would be available to him, not just the things that they teach about in school, because it's so much more that our children can do that they don't even realize. So just making sure that he knows the options that he has. And affirmations is another thing.
Mm, huge.
Yeah, wait. So I just have to say this,
Mm.
and I wanted to say before, but now it's appropriate. I told my daughter, your relationship.
Okay. Can you hear?
What you say, George?
So I just want to pick, like, this is so important, right? So,
Mhm.
Nicole, we've been friends for years.
Years.
You know that I just started seeing the result of my hard work,
Yep.
maybe about a year and a half ago.
Mm.
And this is what I tell my daughter: enjoy the ride, be happy where you at right now. And Ed Milet said this, Ed Milet said this on his podcast. You are perfect the way you are right now. But just know that that version of you will be obsolete next year. So here's the thing. I wrote down the name of my company, Lifelong Learning Defined, 3 years before it became incorporated. And it took 3 years before I saw any real success. So you have to envision it, like you have to write it down. And I wrote it down because Dr. Stephen R. Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you need a mission statement. I didn't have a mission statement because I didn't know yet, like how to market, or not market, but how to package my talents, or how to develop them. So I just wrote down what I want to do. I want to be a lifelong learner, which is a professional, right? In my personal and in my professional, but I want to define it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to say that one day. Lifelong learning, I got that defined. And now look.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, your mic was going in and out. Were you trying to finish up with what you were saying, or?
Yeah, Zoom don't want to let me be out. So hold on, heard about affirmations. That was just the last thing that I was saying. Making sure that speak to just the positive character, the good things that I want him to focus on, know about his building his esteem, has that. Somebody else tries to come at him with things, and what we can, he knows how to to
Are
there.
you going in and
And
out?
so,
Your phone's going in.
that was my last
Mhm.
thing.
Hey, Ari, I owe you an apology. I thought she was done talking,
Yeah, I thought so too.
but she was done, and she
We
was.
sorry,
I apologize, Ari.
but
I don't even know. I don't know what he said, but okay.
but we're gonna take it to mwah, mwah, sunshine.
What was the question?
What's the
Oh, gotta
question?
go to
The question.
What about it all?
The question was, what do you teach your kids, and are you involved?
Hands-on involved. Teachers know me. Teachers know my husband. Hands-on involved.
Good.
Sometimes they be covering the telephone like, what happened? Do we know what happened? Mrs. Dalton's on the phone. I'm that parent that pops up in school. I get a phone call. I tell the teachers all, if they act up, call me, text me, I'll be there real quick. And I tell my boss before I even got hired, because I look at here, if I get a phone call from the school, I'll be taking a few minutes, go to the school and I'll be back, okay? I'll make it up. But the simple fact is, what you're not going to do is act a fool, because you represent me out on these streets and I represent you as well as your parents. There's no way in hell you going to act one way in school and act another way at home. That's not happening, Bobo. We get great. Oh my God, Miles was so polite. He was saying yes, no, thank you, and everything else at the house. Yes, because that's what I taught him. I wish I hear something different. He won't be sitting for a little bit.
Absolutely.
If you act up in school, your phones are taken. Electronics are taken. Per the law of the state, you only need to put a roof over their head, place to sleep. It didn't say have no TVs. It didn't say have no computers. It didn't say none of that. And feed them is what you're supposed to do. Supply clothes, food, roof over their head, and a bed. You will go into your room and it'll be naked. They had PS4. They have Switch. George is laughing because George know I do. They have their cell phones. Every electronic will be gone. And passwords are on their TV, because if it's over a certain thing, if it's rated R, Miles is like, Mom, what's my password? That means that's not a movie for you to be watching. Next, change the channel. Simple fact is, I'm not hands-on mom. I will embarrass you in the street. I'm not your friend. I'm your mother first. I'm your number one fan. You doing good in school, I support you in your sports. You doing good in school, I support you in your musical. You doing good in school, I got you. Mom's your number one fan, but mom is not your friend. Education is number one, because sports and music may fail. You need something to fall back on. Education, power is knowledge. What are you feeding your kids? Oh, we feed them everything. Bible, scripture. Absolutely. We feed them what to listen to, what not to listen to. Watch who your friends are. Because if I see something in a kid, I'm sorry, you can't be around my child. They may not see it right now, but I see it. Hell no. That one can't come to my house. Let me check your phone. What have you been watching lately? What have you been accessing lately? Are you checking your kids' phones? Are you checking their dialogue? Are you watching who their friends are? Do you know who their parents are? What do they do behind closed doors?
That's important.
Exactly. And to piggyback off of what you said, Sunshine, you said you are their parent and not their friend. That is something that has changed with our generation. I know when I was growing up, my mom was hard as a nail on me. I mean, she put up with
the warden.
She grew up in a prison-like state.
Lockdown. Man,
straight up. We didn't have the luxuries, bro. We did not have the luxuries that these kids have nowadays. So it's just that my daughter, she's 2. I haven't gotten to the stage where I can really start to implement the true core values, because she's just understanding conversation now. So she's able to throw out, certain phrases, such as like if we ask her if she's done using a potty, she'll say yes or not yet, and we'll ask her yes what? Yes sir, yes ma'am. She's able to do that. So I make sure that when I talk to her, and if she's not able to speak how she feels because she's just being really emotional as a child, I tell her, use your words. And I ask her the question again, and she'll tell me, oh, I'm hungry. So teaching your children these things, just like how you're doing, that just because you're out and about, you're still a reflection of me. Make sure you act right. And teaching your kids affirmations, making sure that you are instilling in them that they can manifest anything that they desire. But they got to put their mind to it. They got to put that work. You got to put that work in. Faith without works is dead. You
Yeah.
can't have
And
faith in the future if you ain't working towards it.
Come on.
And making sure, just like how George said, like he is building that. That is how you close the wealth gap between generations. Having your children involved in your business as you're growing your business helps them grow their own business. I'm seeing different memes, and I think I actually looked it up, where Nas actually added on his daughter as one of his producers to one of his albums.
And his son is also in the background doing things too. Nas? Yes.
So that's how, well, that is a good example of how you give your children a step up when it comes to, or having your children tap into your legacy.
Yes.
And there is such a huge generational gap in wealth between us and the next generation, or the dominant world, or white people, or people that are just built into wealth. So now during COVID-19, we now have a chance to influence our children even heavier, because the school system, and not to knock the school system, it is to teach you how to function properly as an adult in the system in which we live. But it doesn't help you thrive to rise to be the number one. That's something that you have to build in yourself. So since we have more time, we have more control over their environment, this is the perfect time to teach our kids anything that we had no chance of learning, or just instilling more core values in them. So those are my thoughts on that. My final thoughts. I'll pass it back to the panel if anybody else wants to drop something off.
I mean, I think every time you speak, man, there's not much to add. All I will say is that education is for everybody. But formal, well, academia is not for the entrepreneur. It's for the worker, in my opinion, based on what I've seen. But I think that if we know how to make something work, then I think, if we educate ourselves and our children appropriately, then they can be what they want to be. And in the very least, like I'm just looking at the diversity here in the panel, everyone is into something different. And the thing is, you have to know yourself and know what you like. Like I like Rakim, I like the audiobook or whatever. You like what you like. When you like what you like, you do it, and then you become happy. And if you flip it and you can use it to help other people, then you have a purpose in life. Boom. That's it.
I agree. All right. Did you have anything else you want to add?
Nothing. Just continue to show compassion and be lifelong learners. Everybody at every stage continue to be a lifelong learner. That's it.
Be the master student. Absolutely. Sunshine, I'm gonna let you close us out. I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Thank you, JD, for also being the moderator tonight. George, you're right. Ari, you're right. JD, everybody to this panel brought knowledge, brought their sense, brought their advice, brought their education. We're here to help you learn. We're here to help you teach. We're here to open up your mind more to just not looking at what's in front of you, but think outside the box. The world is yours, baby girl, baby boy. The world is yours. You just got to tap in, and you got to hear and watch. Parents, you got to be hands-on with your kids. Right now is the most crucial time. Their fundamentals need you as well as you needing them, because they look up to us. My kids look up to me. If I quit, what's that showing them? That's showing them it's okay to quit. Now, we can't quit. We want our kids to see greatness in us, and we want them to know there's greatness within themselves. So, during this pandemic, Tap in. Check in with your kids daily. Not just at the dinner table. Check in during the day, on your break. When Miles wakes up, he calls me. Check in. Check in with yourself. So I say tonight, thank you all for dropping the knowledge, giving advice, because somebody that's watching tonight or later on, because it's going to be on YouTube, it's going to be on Facebook, we're going to share it. Somebody is going to learn from this. Somebody's going to take from this and apply it in their home, apply it with their children. We that village, even if it's virtual right now, we're that village. So we hope everybody that tunes in now and tunes in later receives something from this to apply with their children, to apply with themselves, to apply at their home, to apply with their children, with the students. And you don't have to be a parent to apply this with the child you see on the street or your neighbor's kids. Be that village. Let's bring the compassion. Let's bring the love back. Let's bring it all. Let's bring that village back. If you don't have kids, sign up to be big brother, big sister. If you don't have kids, sign up to do foster care. This shirt, George's shirt, this was intentional. I made the shirt. George, what does your shirt say?
Teachers change the world one child at a time. And she surprised me with the shirt. I got it in the mail. I was like, okay, my assistant showed me the package. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get to that on the weekend. And when I opened it, it was a surprise. Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome. Now, I don't do that to boast. I do my shirts. I started doing God's property. God gave me this vision in 2015. He did not allow me to release it until 2018. So I had to hold on to it. But when he told me to release, I'm releasing these shirts because George wears that, and George lives in Virginia. George's other teachers will see that. His students will see that. My shirts are intentional. My shirt today is, you shape the future, teach, love, and inspire. We're here doing what we're supposed to do. We're inspiring. We're teaching. Anyone that comes in contact with us or watch, we're inspiring. We're teaching. Now, parents, teachers, adults, kids, when's the last time you inspired somebody? When's the last time you focused on trying to bring somebody up and help them be better? Think about it. Have you shown compassion today? Have you shown love today? Think about it. Knowledge is power. Sometimes put down electronics. Pick up a good book. Go old school again. So tonight, we thank you, George. We thank you, Ari. We thank you, JD. And thank you, our loyal listeners, our loyal watchers. From my house, their house, to yours. Mwah, 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 mwah. Sunshine out. Does Speak Easy out. Like and share, like and share, like and share, share. And on top of that, subscribe to our YouTube page. Have a blessed night. Have a good night, you guys. We are out.
Yeah.